all the ideas from Rework. The book Rework teaches you how to run a business more simply, rejecting outdated rules like long plans or large teams for efficiency and flexibility. It offers practical advice for entrepreneurs, including quick launches, customer focus, and minimizing meetings. It's worth reading to rethink your approach to work and build a successful project with fewer resources. Written in 2010, based on the author's experience with the company 3-7 Signals. Now, Basecamp, the book became a manifesto for startups due to its straightforward style. It has been translated into over 25 languages and sold over 1 million copies worldwide. Chapter 1. Start from scratch. Starting a business from scratch gives you freedom from old mistakes and others' expectations. Get rid of outdated processes, creating only what your project truly needs. Practice the clean slate method, focusing on a simple product without unnecessary features. Ask yourself, what's the bare minimum required? Notice how this speeds up the launch. Create a basic version of your product. For example, a simple website. For instance, eliminate unnecessary features from an app idea. Start small to see results faster. This frees you from pressure. For example, launch an online store with 5 products and observe how customers react. Or remove complex design from a project and notice how quickly you finished. Simplicity is the beginning. This chapter teaches you to start lean and fast. Chapter 2. Start doing something meaningful. A business should solve a real problem that you care about to make it sustainable. Find a task that inspires you and work on solving it with enthusiasm. Practice the meaningful choice method, creating a product that improves customers' lives. Ignore projects that are just for money without personal value. Notice how this gives meaning to your work. Identify what irritates you and offer a solution. For example, create an app to simplify a task that frustrates you. Focus on user benefits. This ignites passion. For example, develop a meeting planning service if you're annoyed by chaotic meetings, and notice how it helps. Or start a health blog if that's your passion, and observe reader engagement. Purpose is fuel. This chapter teaches you to build a business with soul. Chapter 3. Get to work. Business starts with action, not long deliberations or waiting for ideal conditions. Take the first step, even if it's small, to kickstart the process. Practice the immediate start method, creating a prototype or draft of an idea today. Stop waiting for inspiration or resources. Notice how this moves you forward. Start a project with a simple note or sketch. For example, write a 1-page plan instead of a large document. Act, even if not everything is ready. This accelerates progress. For example, create a website draft in an evening and notice how motivating it is. Or send out the first blog post without aiming for perfection and observe how it attracted an audience. Action is momentum. This chapter teaches you to start without excuses. Chapter 4. Don't delay launching. Launching a product quickly, even an imperfect one, allows you to learn from real customer feedback. Release a minimal version to test demand and improve it later. Practice the early release method, testing the product with a small audience instead of endless refinement. Avoid perfectionism, which hinders progress. Notice how this accelerates growth. Launch the product as soon as it solves a basic problem. For example, test an idea with friends before a broad release. Gather feedback immediately. This saves time. For example, launch an app with one feature and notice how users suggest improvements. Or start selling a product without perfect packaging and observe how it generated sales. Speed is an advantage. This chapter teaches you to launch without delays. Chapter 5. Who cares about competitors? Focus on your product, not competitors' actions, to create something unique. Ignore their strategies and develop what matters to your customers. Practice the internal focus method, regularly asking customers what they need instead of analyzing the market. Create a product that solves real problems. Notice how this frees you from the unnecessary. Ask your users what annoys them and improve it. For example, create a feature that competitors don't have. Stop monitoring their advertising. This enhances originality. For example, add a simple interface to an app. If customers complain about complexity, and notice their delight. Or don't copy a competitor's discounts and observe how your sales grew. Your own is strength. This chapter teaches you to build a business on uniqueness. Chapter 6, evolve or die. Continuous business evolution doesn't mean blindly copying competitors, but improving your own product. Experiment with new features to remain relevant to customers. Practice the small experiments method, testing one change at a time to understand what works. Listen to feedback to guide development. Notice how this retains customers. Try a new product option based on user requests. For example, collect feedback through short surveys. Implement only what provides value. This sustains growth. For example, add a chat feature to an online store and notice how sales increased. Or test a new website design and observe how customers stay longer. Experiments are life. This chapter teaches you to grow through improvements. Chapter 7, don't copy. Copying competitors makes your business secondary and strips it of its soul. Create original solutions, relying on your strengths and values. Practice the unique approach method, highlighting what makes your product special and amplifying it. Avoid imitating others' products to build trust. Notice how this attracts loyalty. Define what sets your brand apart and make it stand out. For example, develop a unique communication style with customers. Don't replicate others' marketing campaigns. This creates credibility. For example, create a distinct brand identity for a cafe instead of copying a trendy competitor, and observe the influx of guests. Or offer personalized service and notice how customers return. Originality is an advantage. This chapter teaches you to stand out with your own. Chapter 8, decommoditize. A product becomes special when you add unique value instead of competing on price. Infuse your passion or story into the business to stand out in the market. Practice the emotional connection method, telling customers why you create the product so they choose you. Stop lowering prices for the sake of competition. Notice how this increases loyalty. Share the story of your business's creation on your website. For example, emphasize handmade craftsmanship in your product. Maintain your price for quality. This builds connection. For example, tell how you started a bakery out of a love for bread and notice how customers appreciate it. Or offer unique jewelry designs and observe how sales grew without discounts. Story is value. This chapter teaches you to make a product special. Chapter 9, pick a fight. Position your business by clearly stating what you stand against to attract like-minded individuals. Identify a problem in the industry and offer your solution to stand out. Practice the clear stance method, publicly criticizing outdated approaches and promoting your own. Be honest to win trust. Notice how this attracts customers. Speak out against poor service in your niche. For example, create a manifesto about your brand's values. Promote your stance on social media. This builds an audience. For example, declare that your store is against mass production and notice how buyers show support. Or criticize complex software and offer a simple app, noting increased downloads. A stance is a magnet. This chapter teaches you to attract through convictions. Chapter 10, focus on the core. Business success depends on focusing on the product's core value, not on secondary details. Identify what makes your product special and direct all your efforts there. Practice the main priority method, setting one goal, for example, improving quality, and ignoring the rest. Avoid distractions from unnecessary features. Notice how this accelerates progress. Choose the main function of the product and perfect it. For example, ask customers what they value most. Focus on this, putting aside minor details. This increases value. For example, improve delivery speed in your store and notice how customers return. Or simplify the app interface, ignoring aesthetics, and note the increase in users. Focus is strength. This chapter teaches you to prioritize for success. Chapter 11, ignore the details at launch. Early obsession with details hinders launch and drains energy. Start with the big picture, adding small touches only after launch. Practice the rough draft method, creating a basic version of the product to test its essence. Postpone refinements until you get feedback. Notice how this saves time. Launch the project with minimal design, refining later. For example, focus on functionality, not logo color. Test the core immediately. This accelerates launch. For example, create a website with a basic structure and notice how quickly it went live. Or release an app without animation and note how feedback helped improve it. The core is the beginning. This chapter teaches you to launch without getting bogged down in minor details. Chapter 12, make decisions. Indecision slows down business, so it's important to choose quickly and move forward. Make a choice, even if it's not perfect, to maintain momentum. Practice the quick decision method, setting a 24-hour deadline for minor issues. Accept mistakes as part of the process. Notice how this speeds up work. Decide which product to launch in one evening. For example, choose a supplier without spending weeks comparing. Correct mistakes as you go. This maintains momentum. For example, choose a platform for your store in a day and notice how quickly sales began. Or decide on packaging color in an hour and note how it relieves tension. Decisions are momentum. This chapter teaches you to act without delay. Chapter 13, be a curator. The quality of a business is defined by what you exclude, not what you add. Remove unnecessary features to keep the product simple and clear. Practice the selective simplification method, regularly reviewing the product and removing anything superfluous. Listen to customers to understand what to keep. Notice how this improves perception. Remove half the features from a project, leaving the best ones. For example, ask users what they don't need. Focus on simplicity. This increases convenience. For example, remove complex filters from an app and notice how satisfied customers are. Or reduce a cafe menu to 5 dishes and observe increased orders. Less is more. This chapter teaches you to simplify for quality. Chapter 14, throw out the extras. Excessive elements in a product or process complicate life and deter customers. Regularly analyze your business, removing anything that doesn't add value. Practice the cleansing method, conducting a monthly audit of processes and features to keep only what's necessary. Include the team in the discussion. Notice how this increases efficiency. Check which tasks can be automated or removed. For example, reduce the number of reports in the team. Ask what hinders customers. This frees up resources. For example, remove unnecessary forms from the website and notice how inquiries increased. Or cancel weekly meetings and note how the team became more productive. Cleanliness is ease. This chapter teaches you to get rid of ballast. Chapter 15, focus on your core customers. Regular customers are the foundation of a business, and retaining them is more important than acquiring new ones. Listen to their wishes and improve the product for them. Practice the loyal approach method, offering bonuses or personalized service to those who return. Ignore one-off trends for long-term value. Notice how this strengthens the business. Add a discount for those who buy regularly. For example, respond to feedback from loyal customers. Make their experience more convenient. This builds trust. For example, offer a bonus for a third purchase and notice how customers return. Or simplify returns for loyal customers and note their gratitude. Loyalty is the foundation. This chapter teaches you to value those who are with you. Chapter 16, the illusion of agreement. Trying to achieve complete agreement within a team slows down work and reduces efficiency. Make decisions independently if they are not critical to maintain momentum. Practice the autonomous action method, allowing everyone to take responsibility for their tasks without lengthy discussions. Trust your team to avoid arguments. Notice how this speeds up progress. Give the designer the freedom to choose a style without a vote. For example, decide on the report format without a meeting. Delegate minor issues. This saves time. For example, let a colleague choose the font for the website and notice how quickly they finished. Or approve a plan without discussion and note how the project moved forward. Autonomy is speed. This chapter teaches you to move without delays. Chapter 17, reasons to say no. Declining unnecessary tasks or requests preserves resources for what's essential. Evaluate every offer, asking, will this improve the product? Practice the task filter method, rejecting everything that doesn't align with the business's main goal. Be polite, but firm in your refusals. Notice how this frees up energy. Decline a feature if customers don't need it. For example, say no to a partnership that distracts. Write down why you refused. This maintains focus. For example, decline the idea of an in-app chat and notice how the product remained simple. Or turn down an extra project and observe more time for the main one. Refusal is protection. This chapter teaches you to conserve resources. Chapter 18. Interruptions are the enemy of productivity. Frequent distractions destroy concentration and reduce work quality. Create time blocks free from calls and messages for deep immersion in tasks. Practice the quiet hour method, turning off notifications for 2 hours a day to focus. Set clear boundaries for colleagues. Notice how this increases efficiency. Dedicate your mornings to work without email. For example, use Do Not Disturb mode on your phone. Inform your team about your focus time. This improves results. For example, turn off chats for an hour and notice how quickly you finished a report. Or agree not to disturb each other from 10 to 12 and notice how the project progressed. Silence is work. This chapter teaches you to protect your concentration. Chapter 19. Meetings are toxic. Meetings often waste time without being productive, and they need to be minimized. Hold meetings only with a clear agenda and a 30-minute limit. Practice the short huddle method, replacing discussions with emails or chats if possible. Invite only those who are truly needed. Notice how this saves hours. Set a timer for 15 minutes for meetings. For example, resolve issues via email instead of meetings. Limit participants to 3. This speeds up decisions. For example, replace a planning meeting with an email and notice how everyone accomplished more. Or shorten a meeting to 20 minutes and notice how no one got tired. Brevity is benefit. This chapter teaches you to value time. Chapter 20. Good enough is fine. Perfectionism slows down business, while a good enough product reaches customers faster. Launch work as soon as it solves a problem, refining it later. Practice the minimum viable standard method, assessing whether the product solves the problem instead of polishing details. Accept imperfection as the norm. Notice how this accelerates launch. Release a product with basic features. For example, check if it solves the main customer problem. Postpone improvements for later. This brings success closer. For example, launch a website without animation and notice how it started working. Or send a draft email to clients and note how they responded. Readiness is the start. This chapter teaches you to value results over perfection. Chapter 21, quick wins. Small successes motivate the team and maintain work momentum. Break projects into tasks that can be completed in a day. Practice the micro goals method, setting goals achievable in 4 to 6 hours to see progress. Celebrate every victory with the team. Notice how this energizes them. Divide a task into steps, completing one in the morning. For example, set a goal to finish a website page by lunchtime. Praise the team for their success. This inspires. For example, create a banner in a day and notice how the team was invigorated. Or complete ad setup by evening and feel a surge of motivation. Small is mighty. This chapter teaches you to move through victories. Chapter 22. Don't be a hero. Overexerting yourself to save a project often harms it. It's better to start over. Evaluate if the task is worth the effort, or if it's easier to begin anew. Practice the sober view method, stopping if work is stuck and trying a new approach. Admit mistakes quickly. Notice how this saves resources. Rewrite code if it's not working, instead of patching it up. For example, start design from scratch if the old one isn't appealing. Ask, is it simpler to redo it? This saves time. For example, relaunch a failed project and notice how it came back to life. Or redo an ad instead of making tweaks and observe increased responses. Restarting is wisdom. This chapter teaches you not to cling to failures. Chapter 23. Go to sleep Overworking reduces productivity and harms health, so rest is more important. Work no more than 8 hours a day to maintain mental clarity. Practice the healthy schedule method, finishing tasks by evening and getting enough sleep. Set a strict limit on working hours. Notice how this boosts your energy. Finish work at 6 p.m., disconnecting from email. For example, sleep 8 hours to make your morning productive. Say no to late night tasks. This restores strength. For example, turn off your laptop at 7 p.m. and notice how solutions came to you in the morning. Or sleep 7 hours and observe how easily you handled a task. Sleep is fuel. This chapter teaches you to work with energy. Chapter 24. Your estimates are too high. Time estimates for tasks are often inflated, which slows down progress. Break projects into small steps to plan deadlines more accurately. Practice the realistic forecast method, adding only 20% buffer to your estimate rather than doubling the time. Start immediately to check deadlines. Notice how this speeds up work. Estimate a task at 2 hours instead of 4, adding 20 minutes. For example, break a project into 1-hour steps. Test deadlines in practice. This reduces expectations. For example, plan a report in an hour and notice how you finish in 50 minutes. Or allocate 3 hours for design and observe how you completed it in 2.5. Accuracy is pace. This chapter teaches you to plan realistically. Chapter 25. Long lists don't work. Long task lists are demotivating and confusing. It's better to keep them short. Create lists of 3 to 5 tasks per day to maintain focus. Practice the short plan method, pushing the rest to tomorrow to avoid overload. Complete tasks one by one. Notice how this increases clarity. Write down 3 goals for the morning and don't add new ones. For example, finish a task before taking on the next. Remove anything unnecessary from the list. This simplifies the day. For example, plan 3 tasks and notice how you finished everything by lunchtime. Or shorten your list to 4 items and notice how much calmer you feel. A short list is success. This chapter teaches you to work without chaos. Chapter 26. Don't follow leaders. Following big competitors distracts from creating a unique product and slows down your business. Focus on your customers and their needs, not on others' strategies. Practice the own path method, developing solutions that make you stand out instead of imitating leaders. Ignore loud trends if they don't suit your business. Notice how this makes you special. Create a product that solves a specific problem for your audience. For example, stop studying the websites of large companies. Do what your customers love. This builds uniqueness. For example, open a cafe with homemade food, ignoring fast food trends. And notice how customers appreciate the coziness. Or develop a simple app without copying leaders and observe the increase in downloads. Your own path is strength. This chapter teaches you to go your own way. Chapter 27. Do less than your competitors. Offering a smaller but higher quality product differentiates you advantageously from overloaded competitors. Simplify your product, leaving only the most valuable features. Practice the minimal value method, highlighting one key feature that customers will love. Avoid adding unnecessary options for the sake of competition. Notice how this increases loyalty. Focus on one strong aspect of your product. For example, remove unnecessary features to simplify usage. Emphasize quality, not quantity. This attracts customers. For example, create a notepad app with a single user-friendly interface. And notice how users praise its simplicity. Or offer 3 dishes on a cafe menu instead of 20 and observe how demand increased. Less is more. This chapter teaches you to win through simplicity. Chapter 28. Say no by default. Declining most offers helps you focus on what's essential and conserve business resources. Evaluate every request or opportunity, rejecting those that don't align with your goals. Practice the strict selection method, politely declining, distracting projects or features to maintain clarity. Say yes, only to exceptional options. Notice how this simplifies work. Decline requests for unnecessary features in a product. For example, say no to a partnership that doesn't bring benefit. Record your reasons for declining. This maintains focus. For example, Say no to adding a chat feature to an app and notice how the product remains simple. Or turn down an extra contract and observe how time freed up. Declining is prioritizing. This chapter teaches you to protect your goals. Chapter 29, let your customers outgrow you. Some customers will eventually outgrow your product, and that's normal for a business. Allow them to leave, focusing on those you are a good fit for. Practice the target audience method, improving your product for your niche instead of trying to please everyone. Don't overcomplicate your business to retain departing customers. Notice how this strengthens your base. Focus on customers who value your product. For example, don't add complex features for large companies. Improve for your audience. This maintains simplicity. For example, refuse to serve corporations if you're for small businesses, and notice how clients appreciate your approach. Or simplify your service for beginners and note their loyalty. Niche is strength. This chapter teaches you to value your audience. Chapter 30, don't confuse enthusiasm with priority. A surge of enthusiasm for new tasks can distract from a business's key goals. Evaluate new proposals through the lens of long-term plans, not emotions. Practice the cold analysis method, postponing decisions for a day to avoid impulsive actions. Compare tasks with current priorities. Notice how this maintains direction. Postpone a new idea for 24 hours before starting. For example, check if the task aligns with your goals. Focus on what's essential. This prevents chaos. For example, don't launch a promotion due to a sudden impulse and notice how you conserved resources. Or postpone a new feature and observe how you completed an important project. Clarity is control. This chapter teaches you to stay on course. Chapter 31, be authentic. Authenticity in business builds trust and sets you apart from competitors. Speak honestly about your product without exaggerating its capabilities. Practice the transparent communication method, openly sharing processes and limitations with customers to earn their respect. Avoid marketing gimmicks. Notice how this increases loyalty. Tell customers the truth about delivery times. For example, acknowledge product limitations in the description. Be open on social media. This builds connection. For example, honestly state that delivery will take a week and notice how customers appreciate the truth. Or describe the product's drawbacks and observe how this increased trust. Honesty is trust. This chapter teaches you to be genuine. Chapter 32, build an audience. Building an audience is more important than one-off advertising campaigns, as loyal customers ensure sustainable growth. Share useful content regularly to attract people who share your values. Practice the consistent communication method, publishing articles, videos, or posts that solve your audience's problems. Focus on long-term connection, not quick sales. Notice how this increases trust. Write a blog about how your product helps customers. For example, share tips on social media weekly. Create content that people want to share. This builds a community. For example, start a newsletter with life hacks for your niche and observe how your subscriber count grows. Or publish video tutorials and note how customers return. Audience is an asset. This chapter teaches you to attract through value. Chapter 33, outshine your competitors. Stand out in the market by offering something unique instead of competing in advertising. Highlight your distinctive quality, for example, your history or approach, to attract attention. Practice the bright distinction method, creating a memorable brand image through design or messaging. Avoid standard marketing techniques. Notice how this makes you memorable to clients. Create a unique packaging style or slogan. For example, tell the story of your business in an advertisement. Make your brand recognizable without excessive costs. This attracts attention. For example, use a vibrant logo for a cafe and notice how passersby photograph it. Or emphasize the eco-friendliness of your product and observe how it attracted new buyers. Uniqueness is light. This chapter teaches you to shine with your own style. Chapter 34, share everything. Openness in business, such as sharing processes or lessons, builds trust and attracts customers. Show how you work through blogs or videos so people feel connected. Practice the full transparency method, even publishing failures, to show the brand's humanity. Teach others based on your experience. Notice how this strengthens your reputation. Show how your product is made on social media. For example, describe how you solved a problem in an article. Share knowledge for free. This creates loyalty. For example, publish a video about production and notice how orders increased. Or write a post about your mistake and observe how customers appreciated the honesty. Transparency is connection. This chapter teaches you to be open. Chapter 35, the Hollywood launch. Loud, hyped-up launches often disappoint. It's better to start quietly and grow gradually. Launch your product modestly to focus on quality and feedback. Practice the soft launch method, testing the product with a small audience to gather feedback and improve it. Avoid exaggerated promises. Notice how this creates sustainable growth. Start sales with a small group of clients. For example, test the product with friends before a broad release. Improve based on their feedback. This reduces risks. For example, launch an app for 50 users and notice how their advice improved it. Or open a store for neighbors and observe how word of mouth attracted others. Quiet is quality. This chapter teaches you to grow without fuss. Chapter 36, step-by-step marketing. Marketing works better if you promote your product gradually through small steps. Take small but regular actions, such as posts or promotions, to maintain interest. Practice the gradual promotion method, planning one action per week so the audience gets used to you. Avoid large campaigns without a base. Notice how this builds demand. Publish one post about the product once a week. For example, launch mini promotions for subscribers. Build interest step by step. This creates anticipation. For example, make weekly posts about a new product and notice how views increased. Or offer a discount to subscribers and observe how sales went up. Steps are growth. This chapter teaches you to promote smoothly. Chapter 37, the myth of the overnight event. Explosive success is rare. Real business growth comes through consistent effort. Focus on daily work, not on the hope of viral success. Practice the daily effort method, improving the product or service every day to achieve results over time. Ignore dreams of instant fame. Notice how this builds stability. Improve one detail of the product daily. For example, work on quality instead of chasing viral potential. Track progress once a month. This builds a foundation. For example, improve your website daily and notice how traffic increased after a month. Or work on your service and note how customers started returning more often. Persistence is success. This chapter teaches you to grow through hard work. Chapter 38, do it yourself. Before hiring employees, try to handle tasks yourself to understand what the business truly needs. Do the work with your own hands to assess its complexity and necessity. Practice the personal experience method, testing processes before delegating them to avoid unnecessary costs. Avoid hiring for prestige. Notice how this saves resources. Set up the website yourself before looking for a developer. For example, do accounting manually to understand its volume. Delegate only what you can't keep up with. This provides clarity. For example, create an advertisement yourself and notice how you learn to save money. Or process orders manually and note which tasks require an assistant. Your own hands are knowledge. This chapter teaches you to understand before hiring. Chapter 39, hire when it hurts. Hiring is only necessary when tasks become overwhelming and slow down the business. Evaluate whether a new employee will truly solve a problem, not create a new one. Practice the critical need method, hiring only when clearly overloaded, to maintain flexibility. Check if the task can be automated. Notice how this saves budget. Hire an assistant if you can't process orders. For example, check if automation solves the problem before hiring. Hire for a specific task. This reduces costs. For example, hire a courier when deliveries take all day and notice how time freed up. Or install a chatbot instead of an operator and note the savings. Need is a signal. This chapter teaches you to hire wisely. Chapter 40, skip the resumes. Resumes often don't reflect real skills, so evaluate candidates based on their work. Ask them to complete a test assignment to see their abilities in action. Practice the practical verification method, focusing on results, not formal experience. Talk to the candidate to understand their approach. Notice how this finds the best candidates. Give the candidate a task related to actual work. For example, ignore diplomas and evaluate only skills. Conduct a conversation about goals. This reveals talent. For example, ask a designer to create a banner and notice how they handled it. Or evaluate a manager by a trial call and note their approach. Work is the measure. This chapter teaches you to look at results. Chapter 41, hire managers of their own time. Employees should work autonomously, not require constant supervision. Look for those who manage their own tasks and don't need oversight. Practice the self-selection method, asking questions about how a candidate organized past projects. Avoid people who wait for instructions. Notice how this increases efficiency. Ask how the candidate handled deadlines. For example, hire someone who has already led projects themselves. Check their initiative during a test. This saves your time. For example, hire a marketer who has launched campaigns themselves and notice how they work without prompts. Or choose an assistant with planning experience and note their speed. Autonomy is value. This chapter teaches you to seek independent individuals. Chapter 42, the best are everywhere. Talented employees can be in any city, so hire remotely to expand your choices. Use online platforms to find candidates worldwide. Practice the global search method, evaluating skills, not geography, to find the best. Organize work through digital tools. Notice how this opens up opportunities. Post a job opening on an international platform. For example, hire a designer from another region. Use chats for communication. This provides access to talent. For example, hire a programmer from another city and notice how they improve the product. Or find a copywriter online and observe the quality of their texts. The world is a market. This chapter teaches you to look for talent everywhere. Chapter 43, test drive employees. Before hiring, test an employee in a real work scenario to ensure suitability. Offer a short, paid project to assess their skills and approach. Practice the trial period method, observing how the candidate handles tasks and fits into the team. Avoid hasty decisions. Notice how this reduces risks. Give the candidate a week for a trial project. For example, check how they communicate with clients. Evaluate the results before a contract. This protects the business. For example, assign a manager to process 10 orders and notice how they handled it. Or ask a copywriter to write a post and observe if the style is suitable. A trial is the truth. This chapter teaches you to test before hiring. This is such a wonderful book. I wrote down all the important points from this book, all the techniques and tools, and also made a step-by-step action plan based on the book. You can get all this in my private club, Place of Power. There you will find a ready-made detailed text analysis with similar lists for hundreds of best-selling self-help books. Also, only there can you get an exclusive analysis of the newest best-selling books that are currently at the top of Amazon sales charts. Join via the link in the description and enjoy.